Hello, my sweets. How are you? I hope that you are feeling calm and centered, happy, ready for the weekend. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, then you're in the right place because I am a life coach and I'm talking all about this month how to deal with overwhelm and how to understand it better and how to understand how we actually create it. What? It doesn't just happen to us. We create it by what we're thinking, and then we have this feeling and it feels overwhelming, and then we take action based on that, and our life just can spiral into an overwhelming situation. So I'm here to help with that. I'm doing a video every Saturday specifically on breaking apart overwhelm and how to deal with it. So if you're just joining me, please feel free to check those other ones out. I also show up on Tuesdays with your weekly tit, which is Try It Tuesday, and that is a challenge or a prompt or an exercise that you can do to sort of implement what we're talking about and practice it and ties it all together. So I've mentioned just a little recap. Overwhelm is a feeling, and it's caused by what you're thinking, not by your life. It's not caused by your to-do list. It's not caused by your job. It's not caused by your family. None of those things. It's a thought that you're having that's causing a feeling, and then you go from there. So we started last week, we talked about what that feeling feels like and some practical things that you can do to sort of adjust your circumstances so that you're less likely to think overwhelming thoughts about them. Because there are tricks that you can do in managing your to-do list and organizing your life and planning your day. Those are your circumstances, which don't cause your thoughts and feelings, but it can certainly help to have that stuff sort of in order and tidied up so that we can think more useful thoughts around those a little more easily. But today I really wanted to dive into the thinking that's behind overwhelm and to help you with that, to sort of like pick it apart and look at it, because for a lot of us, this is happening on autopilot. For a lot of people that I coach, this whole idea that like our circumstances don't cause our feelings, our thinking causes them, it's kind of new information for folks, and they're a little blindsided by it sometimes. And the reason for this is because the thinking can happen like that. It's like a thing happens, and then we have this thought, but we're not aware of it because it happens so quickly. It's often just on autopilot, it's subconscious, but we're having the feeling, and then we blame the circumstance or our life because that's what it feels like caused the feeling. So today I just want to like help you figure out what thoughts you might be having that are contributing to your overwhelm. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can start to shift those. So I say over and over again that most of the time, I don't just advocate like some sort of positive affirmation that you don't believe. Like my life is great and totally manageable. If it doesn't feel like that, then telling yourself that isn't going to happen, isn't going to help. There are a few occasions where I do say like, tell yourself an affirmation like I love myself. But those are different, and they have to do with like years of really low self-esteem, usually from like being an active alcoholic or something like that. But what I really want to work on here is noticing the thoughts that you're having now, and then we're going to work on like finding thoughts that feel just a little bit better, a little more manageable, and then you sort of like build your capacity, like you build your belief, you try on new thoughts like you would try on a pair of shoes or like jackets. You find one that works for you, and it's not going to be the rainbows and daisies thought right away, but it's going to feel a little better than the one that's kicking your ass in overwhelm now. But first, let's talk about identifying the thinking. So if you're one of those people where it feels like life just happens to you and then you feel a certain way, if you feel like you're in reaction mode, if you feel like you're always struggling with overwhelm, it can be so helpful to just accept the idea. I always tell you, don't just take my word for it, like try it for yourself. But just try this idea on that you're actually having a thought that's contributing to your overwhelm, right? So the first step would be like being open to believing this is how it works. And then we're going to start looking at, okay, what's the specific thought? And I thought I could help you here because our brains actually aren't that unique, and they're often offering like themes or the same kind of thoughts. We're all sort of thinking the same thing over and over again. Byron Katie talks about how there's no new thoughts under the sun. Like we all are very unique and special in a lot of ways, but we have human brains and they feed us kind of the same lines of bullshit. So I can help you start to guess what the theme is for you, what the specific thought is for you. And sometimes just like having an idea of like, oh, it could be this, it could be that, it can help you start to look at your own way of thinking. And I would just like to say too that awareness is such a huge piece of this. Do not worry about changing the thought right now or understanding what it is exactly, or when you start practicing this, you realize there's 50 thoughts that are causing your overwhelm. That's totally fine. Just practicing looking at this stuff, practicing understanding how your thought is creating your feeling is so huge. And you can hang out here for a while. You can just practice cultivating your awareness, being in charge of your own mind, being the observer, being the witness, and you can detach from what's going on up here and just start to see like, oh, this is what's happening. So one kind of common type of thought that we can have that contributes to overwhelm is this idea of like, it's too much, I can't do it all. And that could very much be true. Like, I have shared my experience as a social worker where I had just this crazy to-do list that grew every day and was more than really 10 people could do, frankly. But when I was like in that mode of it's too much, it wasn't, that had more to do with what I was making it mean. So there's two things that can happen with this it's too much thing. So for one thing, it could be your brain just like panicking and really you only have 3 things to do, but you're just like getting into drama mode and thinking, it's too much, I can't do it. So for that, I recommend that you just like write down the facts of what you are choosing to do. That's another piece of this. I talked about it in the last video, but remembering that you have a choice in everything. And I don't even care if your boss is telling you to do this stuff or if you have kids and you feel like obligated. You still always have a choice. You're choosing to be a good parent. You're choosing to be an employee that gets their work done. Always remember that it gives you so much power and serenity back. Okay, but say you have all this stuff, you're choosing to do it, claim that it's a choice, and then write it down and look at it. And for a lot of people, it helps just right here to see, oh, I don't have 50 things, I have 3 things, and it's totally possible, and I'm going to do them in this order, and we're fine. If you are having a situation where it's I have too much to do, your work might be to, and you actually do have too much to do, your work might be to look at what are you making that mean? Because if it's just a fact, that your to-do list is like 50 hours of time and you have 8 hours in a day, that wouldn't cause overwhelm unless you were making it mean something. Like, if I don't do this, then I'm a bad person, or I'm a bad employee, or my client's going to suffer, or whatever it is. Figure out what you're making it mean, and then see if you can bring some compassion around that, or ask for support around it. Take it to your supervisor, take it to someone you love and trust, and just see if you can get some perspective around it. Because we are only human and we have this certain amount of hours in the day, and your work might be to let go of beating yourself up for not being some superhuman who has a 50-hour workday, right? Okay, what's another one? Another kind of theme of thoughts that can be causing overwhelm has to do with your ability. So you might be overwhelmed because you have this thing that you have to do, that you're choosing to do. You've decided you want to do it, and you don't know how. And that can cause a lot of overwhelm. So for this one, I really recommend breaking it down and telling yourself, this is where like starting to figure out helpful thoughts that you can think instead or alongside the unhelpful thought. So if you think, I don't know how to do this, then have that thought that says, well, everything is figure outable. Like Marie Forleo came up with that one. I love that thought. I use it all the time. Everything is figure outable, or I've figured out how to do things before. I can figure out how to do anything. Whatever it is for you, have that ready and just sort of slap it right up next to the thought of, I don't know how. That's such a classic thing that our brain just throws out. Like, it's just trying to get us to stop being uncomfortable, stop stretching ourselves. Not knowing feels scary, feels like we're going to die. So it's just like, I don't know. And your brain is using that as a thing to stop. And what I want to offer is that you just challenge yourself and soothe yourself and say, I can figure it out. I can ask for help. I have the internet. There's a way around this. So just bring that in whenever you're feeling stuck. And then the other thing is to break it down into bite-sized things. So if you're trying to tell yourself, like, I need to build a website. This was a big one for me. Whenever I would like try to put that on my calendar or present it as the thing I had to do today, it felt so impossible because it actually involved a lot of different steps. And if I just thought of it as this big thing of like build a website, it felt very overwhelming and challenging. So for me, it was about breaking it down, like figuring out what platform I needed to use and what the domain name was going to be and how to research that and how to, link all that stuff up and find a tutorial online or ask someone for help or find examples of websites that I liked so I could start to think about the design piece and what I wanted it to look like and what is it for, and just break it down into the tiniest steps. And when you're dealing with overwhelm, and if you're someone who's feeling a lot of it and it's just very uncomfortable and it's anxious and you find yourself freezing, I really encourage you to break stuff down to almost laughably small. Like if you are, I don't know, say you're moving, that feels like a huge thing that can cause a lot of overwhelm, right? Your brain just gets all frantic and you don't know where to start. For you, the first step might be, okay, I need to pack. So I need to go to get some boxes. So I need to go to the store, which means I need to put on my shoes. So I'm just going to find some socks and put those on and put on my shoes. It sounds so silly, but when you're overwhelmed, it helps you get out of the fight or flight and back into your prefrontal cortex to be like, hey, we might have a billion things to do, but right now all you have to do is put on your shoes, and that's totally manageable. You know how to do that, right? And then it's like, now we just got to walk to the car. No big deal. Now we're just going to go to the store. So you just sort of soothe yourself into these baby steps and then celebrate all along the way. Every time you take that little step towards it, understand that it's so much bigger than just that little step. It's you managing your mind, choosing to push past overwhelm or to think better thoughts and to get this thing done and not let your brain sabotage you and not let yourself get freaked out. So this is long enough. I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to name like a few big overarching themes of how we get stuck and what we're actually thinking about when we are feeling overwhelmed. And what I want to encourage you to do is come up with your own. See if you can figure out what's going on between your ears. What are you specifically thinking? And what does overwhelm feel like in your body? And I want you to just start practicing how those are connected. How it wasn't just that I looked at my to-do list and it had this thing on it. It was that I had a thought about it and then I started to have this feeling. So look at that, practice being the observer, practice naming your thoughts, write them down, and then we're going to talk about how to shift those and start to think thoughts that feel a little better. Like what I told you, the whole everything is figure outable. So hope this was helpful. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, I am coaching folks one-on-one, so you're in the right place. The best way to get a hold of me is to shoot me an email. It's kickasswithbothfeet@gmail.com. And we can set up a free phone call or Zoom call to just talk about coaching and what it would be like to work with me and what you need help with and see if I am a good fit for you and you for me and find out more about it. That is free to talk to me for an hour about what's going on in your life. So if that's interesting to you, if you want to know more, I would love to talk to you. So please reach out. Kickasswithbothfeet@gmail.com. And I will be back here Tuesday with your weekly tip. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.